This has been the number one storyline for the Milwaukee Brewers here in the offseason. Would they or would they not trade their ace, Freddy Peralta? They did on Wednesday, and we'll talk about that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. My name is Chuck Freimund, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin, proud host of Locked On Brewers, the number one Brewers podcast on the internet, the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcasting network in the world. Coming up on the podcast today, we're going to size up this trade, the Brewers and New York Mets. Freddie is dealt to the New York Mets. They get a couple in return. Brewers also throw in Myers. We'll get to that coming up here in a bit. How does the rotation look at this point without their top of the rotation guy? Is that enough right now? Do they have enough to be competitive in the NL Central? We'll get to that. Brewers are always in a tough spot. Always in a tough spot in the offseason. It's another thing we need to get to. They're darned if they did and darned if they didn't. And we'll get to that coming up as well. Locked On Brewers. This episode brought to you by TurboTax. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. A TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate. Get back your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Yeah, some of us didn't want to see this happen, right? Freddie was popular with the Milwaukee Brewers. Fans liked him. And he did a nice job for the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers got him way back in 2015 in the Adam Lind trade. 16 years ago. He was a player and part of that. Made his debut in 2018. Struck out 13 in his debut. 117, had an amazing year. Always the debate, is Freddie an ace? Is he not an ace? Well, he's going to be at the top of the rotation for the New York Mets now because the Brewers trade him to the Mets. And they throw in Tobias Myers. They get Jett Williams and Brandon Sproat in return. Williams, middle infielder, can play some outfield as well. Sproat, a pitcher who could be vying for a spot in the Brewers starting rotation. But as far as this move, you don't want to make this move, but this is this is where the Brewers are at this point. And we're going to get to that coming up here a little bit later on the podcast, because the Brewers are always in this no-win situation in the offseason because of the rules in Major League Baseball. With a pitcher going into the final year of his deal. Do they trade him? Do they keep him? We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. But let's first of all size up this trade. Peralta, as we mentioned, 17-game winner. No doubt a top of the rotation guy. I think he this year definitely proved that he is a ace-type pitcher, and he's going to be put in the top of the rotation of the New York Mets. Are the Mets going to sign him to a long-term extension? He's got the final year of his deal, $8 million for this final year. As the Brewers always do, they trade pitchers in the final year, going in that final year of the deal. That's for David Stearns to work out and the New York Mets. But certainly I'm not trading for Peralta if I'm the New York Mets. If I don't think I can work out some kind of contract extension. I wonder if they had a conversation with him or not, because you like to think you're not just renting Freddie for a year, because the Mets gave up their third best prospect in the organization, their fifth best prospect in the organization, Jett Williams, their third best prospect, 30th on the MLB pipeline. Middle infielder, and the Brewers are stacking up on middle infielders these days. Stacking these guys up. Guy who could steal, tell me if you heard this before. Guy who could steal bases, field his position, hit 261, 17 home runs, 34 stolen bases in the upper part of the Mets farm system last year. Good defender. Brewers are stacked up in the middle infielder, in the infield spot. They got Pena, Made, Pratt, three of their top prospects. Their top three prospects are all middle infielders for the most part. Pratt could probably play some third base, but Made and Pena, middle infielders. And Jett Williams is doing that. Are we making a strength stronger here? I'm not downplaying the move here, but they did get a guy who they're already stacked up in that position with Jett Williams. I'm not saying he's not a good ball player. And of course, you can go watch the highlight reels and all that. And, the highlight reels on YouTube will make anybody look great. Again, I'm not downplaying Jett Williams here, but we do got guys like this already. And he seems like a guy who's walks a lot, patient at the plate, walks a lot, but strikes out a lot. Yeah, he's got that combination going on. So we'll see. 5'7", 175 pounds, and just a good, fundamentally sound player, it seems. Okay. To rate this trade right now is impossible. I mean, you could either hate the trade or love the trade, but it's kind of difficult. It's like judging an NFL or NBA draft. On the next day, you could say, well, the Packers, who do you know? Do you actually get these guys in your turf and playing in your system? You don't know. Jett Williams could turn out to be Ryan Sandberg. Then again, he could turn out to be nobody. He could turn out to be Jett Bandy. Not that Jett Bandy's nobody, but you know what I'm saying. But it's hard to evaluate this trade. You can say, wow, what a great trade. Because you look at Twitter, the ultimate judge of things. Some Brewer fans are happy about it. Some Brewer fans are sad about it. Like what the Brewers got back, thought that the Brewers could have got back a little bit more. But Jett Williams, solid player. Again, you're not good unless if you're ranked 30th in the MLB pipeline and they're top 100, you got to be good. And he looks like a solid player. All I'm saying is the Brewers got guys like that already. We'll see. And maybe another trade somewhere down the road. Like I said, making a strength stronger. Sproat, the pitcher, ground ball pitcher, throws in the upper 90s. Appeared in 4 games with the Mets last year on the major league level, 4 games. ERA of 4.79, 96 miles an hour. From what I'm reading most of all, and I'm hearing, Mets consider him at best, the Mets considered him at best a back end of the rotation type guy. A back end of the rotation type guy, a 4 or 5 starter, in other words. Now, I'm not going to read too much into that either. The Brewers have the ability, as you know, to get pitchers, Quinn Priester the latest, get them into their system and make some of these guys better than their projections. Like Quinn Priester. Quinn Priester was laboring around between the Pirates and the Red Sox. The Brewers saw something in him and traded for him. And, he's probably going to be middle of the rotation and maybe upper rotation of the Brewers next year. We'll get to that. But yeah, the 2 guys, I don't have any problem with it. In general, the 2 guys I wanted, you wanted Batty maybe from the Mets. There were some rumblings that the Brewers were interested in him from the Mets, and the Mets said, no, we're not trading him. So these 2 were on the table for most of the day, Williams and Sproat. And I feel like the deal wasn't going to get done until the Brewers tossed in Tobias Myers, and then it got done. Originally, I think the Brewers, it sounds like maybe Peralta for Sproat and Williams, and then the Brewers threw in Myers, who was going nowhere anyway at the Brewers. Sad to say, because the guy was the pitcher of the year in 2024 when he came up here and took things by storm. But with the Brewers adding these 2, Myers in particular, the Brewers, in some people's eyes, have the top farm system in baseball. Look at these top 100 guys they have now. And I'm not saying this doesn't necessarily transform this team into World Series champs, right? Having all these hot prospects doesn't necessarily mean anything. And again, to project what the 2029 lineup is, which I've seen out there, is foolish. Or the 2028 or 2027 lineup. I've been seeing that for years, and that's just dumb to think that way. But because trades happen and guys fail and all that. But right now, Mate is 4th. Pratt, 50th. Pena is 47th. Jett Williams, who they got in the trade, is 30th. Henderson is 46th, or Henderson is 96th. So you got Motti at 4, Pena at 47, Pratt at 50, Henderson at 96, and the newly acquired Jett Williams slides in at 30. So you're continuing to make your farm system strong, right? You got some good young talent on this team, this Brewer team, that's not making a lot of money. And that's the way you got to think in terms of cash, too, with the Milwaukee Brewers. You got to have a strong farm system and guys in your team that aren't making a heck of a lot of money. It's the way it works. I see some people coming at Mark Attanasio already, calling him cheap. The Brewers, and I'm with them on this, I didn't want to give Freddy Peralta $200 million. I don't think the Brewers should ever do that with starting pitching. And they don't do that. I'm with them on that philosophy. Sure, would I like to see the Brewers spend more, but I'm with them on that philosophy of not spending $200 million and giving Freddie a contract extension. I'm good with that. I'm really good with that. So this deal, to size it up, I like the guys the Brewers got in return. I didn't want to give up Freddie. I was good at running with it back next year, running him back and seeing what the Brewers could do. But it's just crazy how, I talked about this a couple podcasts ago, how the Brewers, 97 wins every year. Not 97 wins every year, 97 this past year, division champs every year, and they're trading away their best player. And then they come right back and win the division title the next year. All right. We'll see how this materializes. We'll talk about this in the days to come as well. But this is what's been laid out so far for the Milwaukee Brewers. As far as Myers is concerned, again, I felt that he fell out of favor with the Brewers when he got sent to the minors a few times. I just felt like he fell out of favor with the Milwaukee Brewers, and he was a throw-in on this deal. And, he late in the year, he pitched well in relief, and I bet he works out of relief in the Mets organization. Again, that's their problem now. I'm worried about the Milwaukee Brewers and the guys we got back, namely Jett Williams and Sproat. And this rotation for the Milwaukee Brewers, how does it look? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. TurboTax brings you this Locked On Brewers episode today. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. Gosh, we all hate tax season. It doesn't have to take over your life. But this year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. You're going to be sitting around on a weekend doing your taxes all weekend, right? TurboTax, with the TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours after hours and after going all through all these forms, the W-2s, the self-employed forms, yada, 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 all that stuff. Well, they will work to get you every deduction that you deserve. You can upload your documents, go about your day, get updates right in the TurboTax app. Huge time saver. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. $150 all in. A TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate. Get your life back. Don't be sitting around their table in your office at home working on your taxes all day. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Good to have you along here on Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. My name is Chuck Freimund, longtime sportscaster here in the state of Wisconsin. And you get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your audio podcast. We're the #1 Brewers podcast on the internet. If you're already listening to us on all those great platforms, go to our YouTube page, search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode on Locked On Brewers. And the Everydayer Club, we're going to get this Discord going here on this Everydayer Club. It's going to be a chat. We're going to do a couple of chats a week, just you and I on this Discord. But you got to be a member of the Everydayer Club to be a part of the Discord. We're going to do it a couple of times a week during the season as well. We're going to get on Discord and talk Brewers baseball during the day. What a great deal. And also with the Everydayer, you get Locked On Brewers commercial free on the audio platforms. Plus, there's some other amenities as well. How do you join the Everydayer Club? The Everydayer Club is listed right below. I got it in the notes section on YouTube and all the audio platforms out there. Check it out in the notes section, the Everydayer Club. All right. My opening day starting pitcher right now is Brandon Woodruff. And Matt Arnold, the Brewer GM, told the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel tonight that this deal was made easier because of the signing of Woodruff. Now, I remember Mark Attanasio being asked about this, and he said the Woodruff signing and offering him what they did was independent because the thought was, well, you're giving Woodruff, you're going to offer him this $22 million. Does that mean you're going to trade Freddy? And Attanasio said, no, those two are independent of each other. And then Arnold says tonight, well, you know what? The key was we're bringing back Woody. And that was a big deal. I would like to have Woody and Freddy back to back in my rotation. But we're going to be bank on Woodruff, who, I mean, we all love Woodruff, right? When healthy, we love Freddy. We love Woodruff. We love Freddy, but we love Woodruff. I have deep concerns about Woodruff. Apparently, his offseason program is going along okay. Couldn't pitch in the postseason. When he did pitch last year, when he was activated for the second part of the season, was fantastic. Just fantastic, Woodruff was. Yeah, he stepped in the bucket a couple of times, but he was great. But when healthy, Brandon Woodruff's the top of the rotation. He's an ace. I look at Woodruff as an ace. So Woodruff, assuming he checks out, right, with the shoulder, opening day starter. Number 2, I got to go with The Miz. I think Miz is that number 2 guy right now. You got to go with The Miz as your number 2. No question about it. Look great out of the bullpen, but need to use him as a starting pitcher. He's got great stuff. He's got to be the starting pitcher in the upper half of that rotation. The Miz would start game 2 against the White Sox when the Brewers start the season. Number 3 would be Priester. Quinn Priester is my number 3 starter, without question. After that, it's anybody's game. You got those 3 in the top, but you got a bunch of guys competing for 4 and 5. Sproat, who the Brewers got just now. Hall, if he can stay healthy. Ashby showed me something in the postseason. And I like Ashby for one of those spots. I really do. Henderson, and he had a little injury there. Well, I like Henderson. Obviously, he's a top 100 guy in the MLB pipeline. Gasser pitched at the end there. Again, coming off injury. Chad Patrick going to be in the mix as well. I think Patrick is better out of the bullpen. He was dynamite in the bullpen, right? So big battle for 4 and 5 in the starting rotation. With Peralta out, everybody moves up a notch because I had it as of Christmas or, before Wednesday night. Peralta number 1, Woodruff 2, Miz 3, Priester 4. Now it's Woodruff, Miz, Priester 3, and then any one of these guys I mentioned, Patrick, Gasser, Sproat, Henderson, Ashby, or Hall, vying for 2 spots in that rotation. I like a lot of those guys. Still have to hit the win, right? You still got to hit the win. And that's what's been the problem for the Milwaukee Brewers in the postseason. The Brewers are always in a tough spot. I've kind of teased this along the way. Brewers are always in a tough spot here in the offseason. I hate for them that they're in this spot, but this is not a situation they created. This has been created by Major League Baseball. The Brewers in a tough spot, and it's sad that they win 97 games. They got to trade their ace. We'll get to that next here on Locked On Brewers. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along. By the way, on Twitter, anytime you guys have a question, comment, or whatever, you want to drop me a DM on Twitter, hit me up. Chuck Freimund, Freimund, Freimund. I'm on a lot of the national statewide talk shows here in the state as well, making weekly appearances during the season. I imagine here in the next couple of days. I was on one today. I'll be on, I'm sure, a couple of as well. But as always, we're here daily talking Brewers baseball with you on Locked On Brewers. All day on Wednesday, I had been sitting here. Normally, I drop this on a Wednesday afternoon, but I didn't want to drop the podcast on Wednesday afternoon. And then the news breaks that the Brewers made a trade. And then that podcast becomes obsolete. So, about 8 o'clock tonight, 9 o'clock or so, the news drops with the Milwaukee Brewers. You gather information, the Brewers make it official, and here we are. But this was rumored to happen all day today. Didn't know if it was going to happen, but it finally happened between the Brewers and the Mets. Mets, what a day they had, right? I mean, they got Robert from the White Sox. This overspent a couple of days ago for Jett. But the Brewers are in a tough spot, always a tough spot. And yeah, I feel that on one hand, I feel bad for the Brewers. I feel bad, it's not their fault. It's Major League Baseball's fault. We're not going to get into that whole thing. But it is a shame that every year the Brewers have to trade one of their best players. Corbin Burns a few years ago. Devin Williams last year. They let Adames walk, right? They let him play out his final year of his deal, and then he walked to San Francisco. San Francisco overpaid for him, as it turned out. He didn't have a very good season. And this Peralta move, the last couple of times the Brewers have had to trade their top pitcher or one of their top pitchers, whether Williams or Burns, they did it in December. Brewers held their cards till late January here, January 21st, before making the move. And this is the best the Brewers thought they could do. The Brewers were comfortable bringing Peralta back for that final year, but I feel like they really wanted to move him because holding on to him for another year and running it back with him would have been great. You need offense. But with so many pitchers the Brewers have right now, odd, right? Because last year in early April, they were trading for Priester when they needed another starter. Now they got all these guys hopefully healthy. Great competition coming up at camp. And it's sad that the Brewers are in this spot because when the Brewers do trade one of these guys, all right, leaves them open for criticism. Mark Attanasio is a cheapskate. This, all that, okay? I don't know. I'm trusting Matt Arnold on this deal. Like I said, it's hard to evaluate whether this is a good deal or a bad deal, but I'm going to trust him on this deal. He's done a great job on these deals. The Burns deal, Ortiz, DL Hall healthy. That's not his fault. That's not Arnold's fault. Ortiz, great defensively. Very suspect offensively, and that's being nice. Devin Williams, you got Durbin, a starter who was a contributor, a big part of this past year's team, the 97 win team. And then he spun off Cortez in a trade to the Padres. But Freddie, only problem I had with him is he seemed to run into a deep pitch count early, walked a lot of guys. Ran out a deep pitch count. Otherwise, I thought he had ace-like stuff. Now, it did scare me. He didn't pitch very well at Wrigley Field with those Freddy chants, but I was not going to, it looked like he unraveled a little bit in that game. For a first time ever, it looked like Freddy unraveled. But that shouldn't cloud our picture of Freddy. Freddy did a great job here. 17 wins, really had a breakthrough season, and the Brewers traded him when the stock was high, right? They probably couldn't have got this much for him if they traded him last year or the year before. But he had 17 wins, an ERA of 2.79, and this was the value they got for him. The Mets' third and fifth best prospect in their organization. And the Mets have a pretty good farm system. But this is how small market teams operate. We can complain about it all day. And I hate it, and I've complained about it. I've whined about it, as some Cub fans will point out to me. But this is what the Brewers are faced with. It's the only professional sport where a team is always faced with trading their top players because they can't re-sign them when they become at a contract year. You have a great season, you got to trade your best players. What other sport thinks that way? And Major League Baseball. Only pro league like it. But the good news now, the Brewers are stacked up in their farm system like they've been. Doesn't necessarily translate to World Series titles. A couple of managers were at the Bucks game tonight. Pat Murphy and Craig Counsell both there. Not sitting next to each other, but they were both there. I'm sure they said hi to each other. So there we go. The Brewers make the move. Anticipated all season long. And finally it came. The Brewers finally pulled the trigger. It was heating up all day, and the Brewers made the move with the Mets. You only hope that you're able to. These two guys that the Brewers got from the Mets, Sproat and Williams, two of their better prospects. You just hope that those guys can turn into major leaguers. I mean, right? To me, a prospect is never a sure thing. You hope that they turn into quality major leaguers. And we'll evaluate this one in a couple of years. We'll get a full evaluation on it. All right, Freddie's gone. And we're done with the podcast for the night. We'll join you on Friday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. If this is your first time, please subscribe to Locked On Brewers, whether it's on Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads, or our growing YouTube page. And also, become a member of the Everydayer Club, that Discord, a couple of times a week. We're going to have personal conversations talking about the Brewers. The Discord, the link for it right below. And plus, you'll get ad-free Locked On Brewers, plus other amenities as well. All in the link below in the notes section here. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Chuck Freimund. Thanks for joining us here on Locked On Brewers.